What does BOAT stand for as an acronym? Break out another 1,000. If you're in the process of buying your first boat, it can all be quite intimidating. There are a lot of costs you need to consider. Want to experience boat ownership? Stand in a cold shower and tear up a $100 bill. There are a lot of jokes about boat ownership, and we get it. It can be very expensive. If you're looking for your first boat yourself, like me, there are many ways you can reduce the cost of boat ownership. I've asked William, one of our writers at the website, to come up with a list with 10 things he would recommend a newbie boat owner to save money. William has sailed the world for 8 years and he has raced another 12 years, so he knows quite the thing about sailing, and he was kind enough to give me this list. So let's dive in. Here are 10 tips to save money on your boat ownership. There are 4 main parts you can save money on when owning a boat, and those are storage, things you buy like gear and stuff, repairs and maintenance, and operation, which means the cost of operating the boat and taking her out for a spin. So I'll go over these 4 categories and have examples for each of those. Let's start out with slips. Storing your boat is one of the most expensive parts of boat ownership, and slips are very efficient. It's very easy to get in and out of them. You plug in your adapter and the batteries charge. You're safe. It's in all ways the superior mooring location. However, slips are very expensive. An average sailboat will cost you between $800 and $1,800 a year. That's no joke. Depending on your location, it will cost roughly $12 to $240 per feet per year. This was our own research. So you have to expect to pay an average of $50 per foot per year. And so even with like a 24-foot sailboat, it will add up to about $1,500 a year. So that's no joke. If you are willing to spend some extra time getting to and from your boat, maybe invest in a small dinghy, and are okay with not charging your batteries all the time, you could opt for a mooring. Moorings will save you 50 to 90% on the docking costs. There are some disadvantages. These are mostly inaccessible locations. You'll have to get to and from your boat using a dinghy, and your batteries won't charge, obviously. Also, if you have maintenance to do on the boat, it can be a bit harder, and some marine vendors won't go out to boats in moorings, so that can be a pain in the... The second thing you can save money on regarding storage is winter storage. Wet storage is often less expensive than hard storage, like dry storage, so you don't have to haul out your boat. There are some risks with wet storage, which just means you keep it in a slip or a mooring. There are some risks involved. You do need to monitor the boat a lot more closely and check whether there's mold or insects or mouses. You have to monitor the bilge for freezing damage and leakage and stuff like that. But apart from that, it's a lot less expensive than storing your boat on the dry. Another tip to save money is to trailer your boat. Get yourself a good trailer and then load the boat onto the trailer for the winter and store it in your driveway or in a barn or something like that. If you will keep the boat for a long time, maybe invest in a permanent cover for winter instead of shrink wrapping it each and every time, which is also not very good for the environment. Be careful though, covers can damage and they are expensive, $500 to $1,000 on average. If you are a new boater, you are trying to get into sailing, consider subscribing to the channel. Give this video a like if you like this video. If you don't like it, give it a dislike. 3. The location you store your boat in really makes a difference. So prime docking locations can cost you up to $3,000 per year, while less expensive, less premium docking locations will only cost you about a couple of $100 per year. So that's a very substantial difference. If you are willing to drive the boat a bit longer to, for example, the lake you usually sail on, you can moor a bit further away, which will make it less expensive. This is good if you do mostly weekend trips, for example. If you're a day tripper, you want to get on the water as soon as possible, I assume. So what you can do then is drive a bit longer to the boat, so sail at another less expensive lake where you can moor a bit closer to the lake. 3 things you really don't want to do when it comes to storage is you don't want to store in an insecure place, because theft is always super expensive even if you're insured. You don't want to anchor your boat for permanent storage because it's very risky. There's a lot of chance of damaging the boat, and it's very hard to keep an eye out on it. And the third thing is you don't want to go cheap on winterizing your boat. Winterizing isn't that expensive. I did a video on what you'll need to do to winterize your boat properly. It will cost you a couple of $100 at the most if you do it decently, and it will save you thousands of bucks along the way. Number 4, buying things. How to save money with all those massive purchases you'll be doing when buying a boat. You'll need chart plotters, you'll need maintenance products. There's a joke going that slapping marine on a label for marine antifreeze or something, it will double the price instantly, and there's truth to that. So do your research and find out which products you'll actually need, which products are just regular products but sold at a markup for marine use. For example, RV and marine antifreeze. Some marine products you do want to use. Electrical components are more corrosive resistant when they're marine, graded for marine use. Also wiring, copper parts. But things like cleaning supplies, jerry cans, oil change pads, engine oil, RV antifreeze, all those things are the same as the marine graded products. So you can save a lot of dollars right there by going to your regular hardware store and getting your stuff there. Number 5. Marine consignment and used gear. I love buying second-hand products, but they also come at a risk. With boating and sailing in particular, there's a very good second-hand market, and it's very useful for products that are not in production anymore, which is often the case with older sailboats. If you have like a 30 or 40-year-old sailboat and you have a particular winch on it, or some electrical system you need a new display for, the second-hand market can be a great resource to find things like that. But there are also a lot of other products that are very alright to get second-hand. Things like stoves, heaters, spare parts, winch handlers, safety gear, all those kinds of stuff are fine to get second-hand. Electronics are often out of date. I recommend getting those new if you need them. However, if you use older electronics on your boat, second-hand gear might be the solution for spare parts. We're going on to repairs and maintenance. Number 6 is don't break things. This might sound as a joke to you, but it is a fact. If you don't break it, you don't have to replace it. And the easiest way to not break things is take it slow and easy. When you're in close quarters, maneuver very easily, very slowly. Whenever you get stressed out, take the speed out of the boat. Don't force yourself through situations you're uncomfortable with, and just take it slow. So the next one is to check the weather. It's not only about safety in this case. If you go out in foul weather, there's a lot more stress and strain on the rigging, and you will snap cables, damage sails, all that good stuff, and it will all cost you dearly. So check the weather regularly and only go out sailing when the weather is good. Whenever you find there's a part stuck or a winch is stuck and not moving, don't force it. Never force something that isn't moving, because you will definitely break it. Which brings me to the next important maintenance point. Always keep things lubricated properly. So do the maintenance and always make sure that your parts are rinsed and clean and are able to move freely, and rinse any parts that are in contact with salt water, because salt water will corrode away your hardware. This is 8. Number 7. Build your skills for maintenance. So I am currently working on a very old camper van, Mercedes 508. It's very old, it's more than 40 years old, it's rusty everywhere, and I'm learning to weld, which means I can do major repairs now, or I can pretend I'm doing major repairs, and it doesn't cost me a lot because the material is very expensive. It only costs me my labor, my time. So this is a very obvious one, but most people don't have the time to actually spend working on their boat, or they don't want to. But it is one of the best ways to save money, is learning the basic maintenance yourself, oil change, checking and inspecting the rigging, cleaning stuff, lubricating stuff. Winterization is one of the biggest money savers, because when you bring her out to a professional, you will pay hundreds of dollars, like $200 to $500 to winterize that thing. Well, in just the labor will cost you 1 to 2 hours, and the materials is just $50. So it's a very inexpensive procedure to winterize your outboard, for example. Number 8. Whenever you do need to go to a professional because the task at hand is simply too complex for you or too big for you to do yourself, make sure you do any preparations that are easy and mundane. Professionals will really appreciate it if you have already cleaned the boat and rid of any clutter, cleaned the workspace so there's a good accessibility. Stuff like that will really help you build rapport with the professional and maybe get you a discount. The best tip I've got for you regarding this is whenever you are hiring someone to do work on your boat, just ask them straight out, what can I do to help you do your work better, more effectively and quicker? And I think they will appreciate that. So 7 things you could do yourself maintaining your boat are engine oil changes, engine impeller changes, winterizing the engine, winterizing your household systems, so any freshwater systems you have on the boat, compounding and waxing the hull, polishing stainless steel and brass, and most spring commission tasks, things like getting ready for the season. So the last category is the operations, and there's a lot of money to be had here, so I'm just gonna list off a couple of quick tips to save you money. And the first and most important one, as always, is sail more and use the outboard less. Wind is free, sailing in itself is free as long as you use the wind. Clean your bottom. If your hull is dirty, it will create drag, and if you're motoring, this will really increase fuel consumption and it sails inefficiently, so you'll be quicker and cheaper if you have a clean hull. Don't flog your gear. Flogging your sails for a couple of minutes will take more life out of your sails than sailing for a couple of hours well trimmed. So make sure you don't flog the gear. It will also really impact your lines, any canvas. Just don't flog it. Get comfortable anchoring out. If you learn to enjoy sleeping at anchor, you can greatly reduce the cost of slips, which will make any holiday or weekend trip a lot cheaper. Get liability insurance, and don't get all risk insurance if you have a bit older boat or just not a very expensive boat. It will save you about 80% of the insurance policy, and it will suffice in most scenarios. However, my last point is, do not skip liability insurance, because it saves you a lot of headache and money if you do find yourself in trouble, get in an accident or something like that. You do want to be insured while on the water, otherwise you will not be able to sail ever in your life again, because you don't have the money or you're very bitter indeed. So those were my 10 insider tips to reduce spending on your boat ownership. Thanks, William, so much for providing this list, really insightful. And if you are considering to buy your first boat, really consider subscribing to the channel as well. It will help you to make your sailing dream more actionable. For now, smooth sailing.